Welcome back to The First, the Last, the Nerdom, the podcast where we roam the first, the last, and everything in between across film, television, and pop culture. And once again, we're breaking out one of our favorite experiments in television commitment, binge-worthy, question mark. Here's how it works. We pick a TV show where we're excited about or curious to try, watch the first 3 episodes, and then decide the big question. Is this something you should settle in and binge, or is it better enjoyed in a smaller chapters? This week, we're returning to the world of Westeros with HBO's newest fantasy series, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Set before Game of Thrones, this show shifts the focus away from the thrones and dragons toward the road, following the unlikely duo of Ser Duncan the Tall and his young squire Egg. They wander the Seven Kingdoms in search of honor, survival, and purpose. We'll be talking about how these first 3 episodes establish the tone. The show balances out the classics of the Game of Thrones political intrigue with a more intimate, character-driven, and dare we say, maybe somewhat lighthearted trip into Westeros. This time, it feels like a refreshing new chapter, or does it feel ground that has already been done and gone? So tighten your armor, mind your vows, and keep an eye on the hedge knights. This is binge-worthy, question mark. This is the first, the last, the Nerdom. And this week, we're riding into the king. We're riding on the King's Road with a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. There we go. Could get it out there.
Hey.
yeah, there we are. Yeah, and before we get on to the main event here, I'm just going to run through our bona fides real quick here. We are. You can always find us here at the firstlastnerdom.com, as well as home base on YouTube. Thank you to a few new subscribers. Thanks to Tom's short video, which you should also see, which is RGX, the Army of Darkness. If that looks interesting, go check it out. Also, you should go check out our last show that we just did live, first last pod, where we tackle Bring Her Back and was it good? Was it bad? What was going on with it? You could go check it out and let us know what you think of it. But as always, Tom, you have us on Reddit. What's going on Reddit?
Yes, it's I'm in there under First Last Nerdom. And I try to find various subreddits that will have me, and I'll promote our stuff there. Also have an account on X, the same as that First Last Nerdom. I'll promote our stuff there. So if you're interested, I recently picked up a new Giallo release, Torso, which we may cover in the future, possibly. But yep, well, yeah, we never we had a month's worth of Giallos, which you could check out, but you can never have enough Giallos. And then Mike, you have some socials?
I too am available at Sofa King Jewish _ as well as the same name, but just drop the underscore on YouTube. Should you want to find me there, this is fun. This is the wonderful thumbnail that you did. Yeah. This one is, it took me a minute to get into this, right off the bat. And I'll kind of go back and I'll kind of set up where we're at and what's going on here. Sorry, I apologize. I need to find my thing.
Yeah, it's based off of the novellas that George R.R. Martin has written on these 2 characters. I did pick up, I think there's 3 out so far, 3 novellas that's been collected into a book, and he's currently writing and finishing some new Duncan and Egg stories, maybe to the chagrin of those people wanting a new book in the Fire and Ice series, but yeah, he seems very taken with these 2 characters, and it is what it is. They're simpler stories. Each episode's probably roughly about 40 minutes, which was kind of surprising. You'd expect, hour-long drama. But this
Right.
is this mixes drama with humor. It's kind of on the more lighthearted side. If
Hmm.
there's a light side to Westeros, Dunk and Egg are gonna find it, so still kind of rough around the edges. It's not something you want to set your small children in front of, but
No, not at all. No, no, this is very adult, very, very adult oriented material. Obviously, it is.
mhm,
But anybody that has 5 seconds of exposure to Game of Thrones or House of the Dragons would know that. But this takes us to a little bit more lighthearted jaunt through the kingdom. I would say. I'm sure it does get serious, but for the most part, compared to like what we're coming from, what we're dealing with,
mhm,
um, there certainly is the intrigue. But you this show is perfectly poised to kind of slide in to be that kind of lightheartedness, or to introduce a little bit more of a I don't know, I hate to say it, but kind of a slice of life in a way. I think that so many people are used to, but we're about 100 years before House of the Dragon.
mhm.
And what does that mean? Well, if you're not a Game of Thrones nerd or House of Dragons, it doesn't really mean anything because this stands on its own, which I was very appreciative too. So they do a very good job of setting the table with like random story setting characters, how it's going to go. Takes its time, slowly building up its story, its confidence, and who and what's going on. You kind of get in there, so it's not like you know quite as intense as Game of Thrones is known for. But I really enjoyed this, and good grief, I didn't even have that up. That I have sorry, I don't have my show notes up here. While I correct that mistake, Tom will take it back and correct some order here.
Vamp a little bit, but yeah, no. So Game of Thrones, you got the whole thing going on in the Game of Thrones. You got the royalty on down to the common folk, kind of covered within Game of Thrones, whereas House of the Dragon is more of the upper echelon, the royalty kind of fighting amongst themselves for power. Whereas, like you were saying, this show, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, gets down and dirty with the common folk. We've got Duncan the Tall, who was a squire, in support of his hedge knight, but he's since passed and has come into his own as his own hedge knight. Whether or not his knight that he was serving under, whether or not he actually knighted him, is maybe a good question. But Duncan, he's maybe not the smartest guy around, but he has a very good heart. And he runs upon Egg, who quickly decides he wants to be his squire. And it's kind of an odd matching. Egg maybe have a little bit more on the ball as far as smarts, but I think he's impressed by Duncan's big heart
Right,
and his
bravery.
yeah, his bravery and his belief in himself. Whereas maybe Egg
Right.
is searching for who he actually is. Um,
Well, he kind of plays Sir Duncan the Tall. Kind of plays this character as like kind of he's a lunk, like you described. He's from Flea Bottom, and we know from Flea Bottom is a kind of commoner kind of thing, and he wants to be a true knight. That means something to him, and you could tell that, and essentially that's the heart of the show, and that's what is so enduring. That kind of cuts through the political intrigue and kind of the expectation setting, because these people are not like that at all. Um, and unlike where we were mistreated, I would say the audience was, as it comes to like Game of Thrones, like where you kind of meet somebody and they're not who they seem to be. it's kind of the That's kind of the name of the game in shortcut for Game of Thrones and for House of the Dragons as well. Although you kind of get you by the time House of the Dragons rolls around and you've already seen the past material, you kind of expect that. So it kind of does the reverse of like where you see these characters and they're just normal, innocent people. Innocent's a relative term to Game of Thrones, but we're not going to go into that. But you kind of see this lighter side of like, oh, you mean you're not going to cut their throat? Now, there's still brutality a little bit, but it's not quite, ramped up as it was before. This is a very slow paced. You can tell that they're taking their time to build the world, and I appreciate that. And also, I have read part of the all the novellas or whatever together in like one book. I've read a little bit of it, so I've read a couple of these stories in miniature. So to kind of see this was like double rewarding. But it is a different takeoff on not too different, but just play with it a little bit different. Anyway, I'll throw it back to you. I don't want to spoil too much, but
Yeah, no, yeah, it does have a lot slower pace to it. These are novellas, so there's a whole lot of meat or story on the bone. So, like you said, they could kind of take their time with it. Maybe
right.
even slower than was maybe necessary. They probably could have. I think they. I think there's going to be like 8 episodes. I think. Whereas they probably could have got away with. More of a British style 6 episodes, and I've probably got the same information across. But yeah, no, they're enjoyable characters, so you don't mind spending some time with them. And yeah, they kind of take their time. It's just fun to watch Duncan kind of stumble upon these larger than life Game of Thrones type characters. This takes place 100 years before the events of Game of Thrones, but when you see a Targaryen at this point, you know what they're like. You know what you're getting into with someone like that. So there's that shorthand that if you're already familiar with George R.R. Martin's world of Thrones, then you kind of know. So it's kind of fun seeing this world through Duncan's eyes. His eyes are still got a bit of innocence to them, and maybe has a little bit more of a faith into this world than we do. We know what's what makes this world run.
Yeah, for the first 2 episodes, you just see Egg, this bald, smart mouth little stable boy, in the first 2 episodes, and you are slowly introduced into like, okay, there's a much deeper. If this only counts if you've read the books or you've seen the series before, then you kind of see the gravity of what's happening. But even with the gravity that's upon us, like it's still not there though. It's not there yet though. Like like that. That's the kind of the beautiful part about this. Like this is such a very interesting play that they're doing to have such a high stakes. House of the Dragon, how it ended up like it was, like where you actually give a shit anyway. But that's very true. But I find myself being like it still it's still very much in Westeros, and I don't know, it's kind of weird in a way. Like, okay, all this is maybe a poor example, but I'll shoot for it anyway. On YouTube, if you're younger or you're studying or you just want to vibe and you just want something in the background, there are these 10-hour, multi-hour, videos that you can play that are just ambiance in the background. They just play coffee noise or coffee house noise, or they play like light music or kind of like a sci-fi, background noise or whatever. But like that's kind of the you almost feel like you are walking in and it's just kind of home in a way. I don't know how to describe that, but that's reinforced by the storyline and the very simple people that we're presented with in the story that as it unwraps
Right.
therein. But anyway.
Yeah, and there's a big reveal at the end of the third episode, a big shocker moment. But yeah, we won't get into too much as far as spoilers. But yeah, it's a slow burn. And yeah, it's playing on your knowledge. Even even though the original Game of Thrones, I think universally
Right.
ended badly in most people's eyes. I don't think of anyone that's really was happy with how it ended. It's interesting to see that HBO and the audience giving good faith to the world of George R.R. Martin, and will extend the olive branch for future shows that maybe can make up for the bad ending of the original series. And maybe once George R.R. Martin finally finishes those books, maybe we can get a true ending. It'd be kind of interesting to see whether or not they remake this series or redo the final two seasons to be much more in line with what comes to pass. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I don't really have any faith that George R.R. Martin is ever going to finish it in his lifetime.
Oh, I have a theory on this, but I'll let you go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, my thoughts were when if you think back on 2020, which is almost 6 years from now,
Crazy.
but yeah, but it seems like yesterday. But when everybody got into lockdown, and I heard that George R. R. Martin was going to an isolated cabin to finish the book series, and he didn't finish it, then I lost faith that he's actually gonna actually finish it. If any time he was going to finish it, he would have done it then. But yeah, I can see where he'd be much more. It the game the story of Fire and Ice is such a huge undertaking, whereas telling the stories of Duncan and Egg just has a more of an appeal. You're telling simpler stories that are probably much more satisfying because of the fact that you could get through them in a relatively quick time. I think he's already completed two more stories in the series, so that there's going to be plenty to draw from for the show.
Yeah, I have a theory about George, and it added to the everybody else's theories, but I would say that um, I think that he played ball with HBO because I think they had a special agreement or something to like where he would want to do his storyline in a certain kind of way with the books because he can do whatever he wants, right?
Hmm.
And nobody's gonna fault him for that, and that kind of the anger, which is like get the let out. you know, I don't think we're going to see we're not going to see any of that. But I do. There is this thing called posthumous thing, and I have no doubt. I have no doubt. The way that the world works and post COVID world, and may you living interesting times and all that. I have no fucking doubt that all those stories are all done. They're all done. They're all wrapped, and they're in a safety deposit box, waiting for for the day that this thing gets unraveled, like and we get the real ending of it, and then who knows if we'll be disappointed or not. But not that I'm wishing ill upon George R.R. Martin. I hope that he is here with us for another 30 years. Um, if not anything, for mortal torture for him not fulfilling what he said he was going to do. So who knows? Maybe it could be a thing, a bargain with the devil, like where if he never finishes the story, well, you can't kill me.
Yeah.
But anyway, pulling it back to the main event here. This I liked it, but I was already a fan of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, and I think that you mentioned that there was a surprise. There's a couple surprises, but one that you're confirming that you're in the right place in the right time to keep watching. By releasing this, the fifth or sixth episode will be out now, but um, this is one that we're probably going to pick up again and talk about later on.
Yeah.
But there's a lot here. I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, we'll probably do like a follow up. It's one of those that I'll definitely be there. It was sort of a no brainer that we would cover this because
Right.
um itches an itch that scratches the niche that we already like. So
Right.
yeah, it was going to get covered on this show if we on our channel, even if we didn't have this show. We would I'm sure have talked about it. So yeah. And then yeah, there's very few things I fan out about, and Westeros still has that appeal to me. I can't say that to every Marvel or Star Wars thing that comes out now. There's some bad tidings there, but even though Game of Thrones maybe didn't end well, the fact that HBO didn't stick by the people that made it fail, and are keeping the core of George R.R. Martin, but bringing in talented showrunners that understand the world and want to tell a story that's worth telling within that world. There's sort of a HBO hasn't lost maybe it's kind of tarnished a little bit, but they really haven't lost the prestige of being HBO.
Right. Agreed.
I think
Yeah.
Apple is trying to make their own kind of quality brand as well, but HBO still has when you think of HBO, you think of quality, even though there may be a few things that they've done to kind of tarnish that
Hmm.
in the most recent times. But yeah, they still have that gravitas.
No, they do. Yeah, I think that this unique to this series is like finally a Westeros story, like where the stakes aren't paying, where the stakes are paying rent and they're not, instead of Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have Dunk, that is the protagonist in the franchise, who genuinely seems to be a good dude, trying his best.
Maybe the one good dude in Westeros.
Right. Well, I mean, you
he
kind of
doesn't
had shade.
he doesn't
You
have
you had
ulterior motives.
Right. Well, you had shades of that, but you also had like characters that were already corrupted, right? So like
Yeah.
you were happy to see them turn the corner, but they were already very well, down and out, or not good people, so to speak. But
Hmm.
that's relative as it goes. But
Yeah.
there's a lot that just put that on the whole heap of disappointment that people had with
Hmm.
how it ended. But um, it also is nice too that this is a palate cleanser. It's not a prequel. I mean, it is a prequel, but it's something unexpected. That is the lightheartedness that allows it in.
Yeah. Dunk's
I was
a
gonna say,
simple man with simple desires. He wants to go to this event, this festival, and prove himself as a knight in these games that they're going to play. Most of the people are there because it's going to be a fun weekend or a fun week to let loose
right.
a lot of the nobility. It's a no sweat off their back if but for Dunk, this is really his proving ground, sort of do or die. He's going to put every all his very last cent on the line to take a part in this. And if he doesn't win or prove himself, he's going to come away a lot poorer than what he started with. So, and he's got he's a simple man with simple desires. He's kind of taken with this theater girl that has
Right.
a theater group there that he's kind of got eyes for. He's got Egg, who's his newly acquired squire. And then there's a interesting sort of dynamic between the two of them. You could see this is their beginning of their friendship, so it's still in that testing area where they're filling each other out and trying to figure out how they work together.
Well, and you can also kind of see that, and this is taken differently for the two characters, but there's more to meets the eye with Egg, obviously, but also with
Hmm.
Dunk too.
Hmm.
But you wait to see that until you kind of see as things unravel for that. Egg is a
Hmm.
little bit more kind of central to the story. Um, we're certainly not going to spoil anything right now, but I will say Egg has, at 10 years old, he has way more competence in political literacy than, and his little
Hmm.
finger and a little,
Hmm.
you know, bald head than the entire small council. And you also have that, that trial of seven. It's not really justice. It's more like a mosh pit, with maces. So it's like, still Westeros.
Hmm.
But you still have your investment is I think a lot more deeper, because like with the old story, you didn't take you to the third season until you were sure about anybody. And even the people that you were sure of, they were already dead in season one anyway. And that wasn't the point anyway. That was never the point. But that's neither here nor there. That's a much longer, thing that me and Tom probably will eventually get into eventually, but maybe. But this is always a great chance for me to Alt Shift X is one of the YouTube channels that I love to bring up for this, especially if you're not in the know. What with that, he has a way of his videos, his long form videos allow like normies to come in and kind of understand what the hell's going on. But also he has enough material there to like where it'll satisfy you if you already know the story or you're you have a different aspect that you want to question on. I don't necessarily come in with that level of detail with this. I am very happy to just kind of be more of a normie, but also enjoy this, being a fan of Game of Thrones, and also House of the Dragon. This is you are definitely given very good, high quality, high fidelity fan service here. Also, too, as the story unfolds, is you're gonna run into that. You're like, oh, you're gonna be like the meme, like, oh, I know that one, I know that one.
Yeah.
Do the meme, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I have a friend. She's really big into Game of Thrones, and she's taken with the show. And then after the second episode, she'd guessed the big reveal at the end of the third episode. So I was kind of impressed. I was like, okay, all right.
Awesome,
You're picking
yeah,
up on the details.
yep, yep.
So yeah, she was pretty excited that she got it right.
Yeah, in a way, this is a poor analogy, so that it'll file it under what it is. But this is kind of like the Mandalorian of Westeros. Hey, you get the wandering galaxy, and there's a adventure afoot of sorts. Doesn't really have an end. Kind of is very loose. But you're there along the way. You solve problems, and accidentally are adopting a Grogu
Egg is
or an
Grogu.
egg. Yeah. Well, wacky. Well, I don't think we'll get wacky. To coin to use your term.
Yeah, yeah. Probably won't get a Dunk and Egg movie that comes out. Yeah, I
But nobody asked for.
yeah, absolutely. That's maybe several years too late.
So we're doing season one of Mandal. Okay, so we're doing season one again. Okay, cool. Anyway, not better at all. Not at all. No, but all joking aside, this is good. This is why HBO still retains its title. Why they rebranded to Mac? I don't understand that, but it's what it is. But
Yeah, yeah. It's why we put more faith in HBO as opposed to Marvel or Star Wars or Disney. There's a way of handling your fans in a way that isn't yeah. Yeah, with Marvel and Disney, you kind of feel like their hands is in your already in your wallet before you know it's like, oh hey,
right.
before you get introduced. But yeah, whereas HBO, they try to bring you some quality, something
Yeah.
of
I
substance.
I will say on the sidelines of nothingness, I will say that having seen a full year rotation of Star Wars and their kind of down and out canceled kind of thing with the Acolyte and Star Trek Starfleet Academies. It's a whole mouthful. Like that's currently going on right now. It's also just as disastrous as the Acolyte. But I will say this: I did watch the Acolyte, and I will say of the two, they were terrible, but I will say this: there was something there with Disney that I could work with potentially if I had a watch. If I mean, gun to my head, if I had to watch it, there's something a little bit more there of quality, but that's not saying much because you're never going to return to it, and you're not going to be able to return to it. But this is different. And it is what it is. And you know what? If you do like the Marvel and the Star Wars out there, good for you. You know, we're not raining on anybody's parade.
No.
We're certainly we're more into opening doors than closing them. If you close the door, that's always a personal decision. And Tom and I have both experienced that together while doing this little podcast thing. But this is one of the cases like where you're going to want to open the door, especially if you have any kind of thing. Maybe you didn't want, or your just House of Dragons wasn't for you, and you were really disappointed and let down from Game of Thrones. Dare I say, this would be the perfect remedy to that, because it does invite you back in, and you don't have to go deep on any of this stuff, just like the original story building of the first one. But if you have familiarity with it, you're going to be right at home, and you're going to be happy with it, I think.
Yeah.
I certainly am, and I'm looking forward to see where they go. I don't. Again, I kind of go back to my originals. I don't want this is not. I don't want this to go on for 10 seasons. You know,
Yeah.
it's not. But you know, I do want to see more of it. But I want to see a ceiling. I want to see a cap, and I want to see a move on.
Yeah.
Because there's only so many places they can go with this. But we'll find out.
Right, yeah, and then this is definitely not a night of the woke kingdoms, you know? There's no there's no, yeah, it's telling a story, varnish and all, but, also, you know, when you met a nice upstanding person in Game of Thrones, you know, in the next episode, they're gonna be dead, so, it's kinda nice
That
to
was true.
see.
Yeah, red
Yeah,
shirts.
yeah, it's nice to see a guy that, you know, maybe you're pulling for him. You're hoping against hope that his desire to be a knight is fulfilled, and that, you know, he becomes that hedge knight. But yeah, you are in Westeros, so it may not go as planned. But yeah, I'm here for the story. And yeah, and you get the sense that these are kind of self-contained, you know, they're connecting stories, but they're self-contained, so that by the end of the season you'll have a completed story, so you don't have to worry about, you know, this grand overarching series that
Right.
may not pay off in the end on the
Well,
eighth season.
you know, and that kind of that's kind of unavoidable. I mean, you know, who's to blame or whatever. But when you bring people that are non book readers and you build up a story like that, you know, you got to have payoff. You know that there has to be
Hmm.
that. Well, regardless, but
Yeah.
this is a happy and fresh. Just surprising considering that it's Game of Thrones. You know, it doesn't mean it's all happy and smiles. There's still, again, like you said, Tom. I want to reiterate that not for kids. It's not
Nah.
happy go lucky. You know, this is not the Winnie the Pooh version of fucking Westeros
Mhm.
at all. It's still fucking very much George R.R. Martin's turf and universe.
Yep. Yeah, and Egg may look cute, but yeah,
Fucking ruthless.
he's living among the mud and the shit like everybody else in this world. So
Yep.
it's not yeah, it's like you said, it's not Disney. It's George R.R. Martin. Take that
Right.
with all the caveats that come with that. But yeah, no hate on George R.R. Martin.
No, not at all. Not
Yeah,
at all.
he's given us a lot of cool things. You know, as time goes on, and you know, I haven't done a reread of the Fire and Ice books, but I remember
Mm.
extremely enjoying those, and a fresh take on
Yep.
fantasy.
Same here.
And you know, he's really kind of wowed us so far. You know, we have our fun, we say our jabs to him, but I would never say anything to his face. You know, like I said, it's great to have him. And one of the people that we actually interviewed on our channel, Joe R. Lansdale, is a really good friend of George R. Martin.
Yeah.
So we have very
Yep. That link will be down
tangential, yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, yeah, if we ever got the chance to interview him, we would be more than happy to do so. But I know his time's limited, and yeah, he's already got the show, he's got the House of the Dragons, and he's got
Well,
a handful of other things.
it Yeah, and to defend him a little bit, he can do whatever the hell he wants, and he's
Right.
gonna do that whether whatever I think or you think or
Yeah.
anybody else thinks, and that's fine. I don't care.
Mhm.
If the ending is never, so be it. I don't, that's life. But I will say this. I will say, in the vein of the Disney,
Mhm.
the thing. This show proves you don't need $1 billion in CGI budget to make me care. You just need a tall, sad man and a bald, sassy kid.
Yep. And we were talking. The movie we covered this week was "Bring Her Back," which I was looking at. We made a comment
Jesus
that it was
Christ.
set as the rating was a 7, and then you see this show, it's a 8.7, which may be kind of aiming a little bit higher than we're kind of scoffing at the how low horror gets rated, whereas
Right,
fantasy, if you do it right, maybe gets rated a little higher than what it should be. So
right.
but yeah, definitely a fun series. I'll definitely be here for the long haul on it. um
Same.
and yeah, it's kind of got like the hallmarks of a good show. You got likable characters in a interesting world, and yeah, it's theirs to lose. If they fumble the ball, then they were kind of teed up with the best possible outcome. So if they don't make a home run on this, then what the hell are they doing?
Now, this is a stick with them, and don't be surprised if you see Mike and Tom if we come back and we cover the last three
Yeah.
for this. But yeah, this is definitely worth a worthy recommendation. No brainer.
Mhm.
If you want something Westeros inspired, but want to see where that takes you, of course, we're very, very light spoiler. And
Yeah.
nothing beyond what anybody that's picked up a book and read the first 25 pages would already know. But even so, first three, stick with it. The fourth was already out. Like I said, I think that's already out. The fifth one is
Yeah, it
going to come out
was.
this week.
Yeah, the fourth one was released early on last Friday. I haven't had
I
a chance
didn't
to
see it
watch
yet.
it yet.
No, no,
Yeah,
I
I
haven't
hadn't
seen it
either.
yet. No, I watched I waited for this one because I knew that was coming up and it was naturally arrived on our doorstep as binge worthy question mark. So I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
So but I did kind of go back and watch a little bit of the ones because I was preoccupied with like a good chunk of one. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. But anyway, this one is in, go check it out. And with that being said, I'd say this is definitely binge worthy.
Uh-huh. Yep. And if you've made it this far, down in the comments below, let us know which is your favorite character in Westeros of all the series of Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Who is your favorite? I know who's my favorite character to say. It's
Hmm.
Egg. Egg.
Right on. With that, this binge worthy has been excellent.
Egg.